playing with you, sorry, but you weren't with us. The higher the climb, the harder the fall, but how did you get up? I done got rich and went broke, then got rich again, just a little hiccup. I done been ballin' this pickup. Remember me being so bummy and being so hungry, I had to eat gristle. How did you let it go miss? Her she was magic, she mixed it. Met her at one of the functions, we caught a little rhythm. She caught up a friend, they kissed and we dipped it, and that's how we kicked it.
Let me explain what I did, can I kick it? Hold on, yeah, I got some rings and a range, can I kick it? Yeah, don't ask me a thing, how I got her, how I did it. Yeah, spend the whole half, had a blast, can I kick it? Even with a sprain, pain, can I kick it? Just the flex, I went and bought a chain, can I kick it? Things ain't been the same, things have changed, can I kick it? People acting different, so I asked, can I? Before I went live, they ain't know what I was. Ain't no one alive that could do what I does. Wait, need a light here just to catch my buzz. Need Sprite here just to catch my cup. Now they don't really talk about us. Now they don't really talk about love. Honestly, they ain't never seen too much. What's love to a guy with a bag? What's heart to a guy with cash? What's pain to a guy that's mad? Said. What's broke to a guy with a mask? What's both to a guy with a plan? I just wanna kick it, that's all I ask. Like, let me explain what I did, can I kick it? Hold on, yeah, I got some rings and a range, can I kick it? Yeah, don't ask me a thing, how I got her, how I did it. Yeah, spend the whole half, had a blast, can I kick it? Even with a sprain, pain, can I kick it? Just the flex,
the Cowboys are now on the clock.
Can I kick it? Things ain't been the same, things have changed, can I kick it? People acting different, so I ask, can I?
The Texans are now on the clock. The Vikings are now on the clock.
I bet you can't do it like me. Can't see me when I get on the ground. Game on, it's about to go down. A juke and shake it all up. My moves make them run them up. I'm lit so you know what's up. I got the party going up. A champ with the crown is here. I'ma win anywhere. Hey, so shake it like you don't care. I shake it up everywhere. And I can bake cakes by the pound. Blow the whistle 'cause I love that sound. And we can just keep going round. I'm ready for another round. Go ahead, touch down like that.
The Chargers are now on the clock.
Go ahead, touch down like that. Go ahead, touch down like that. Hey, hey, go ahead, touch down like that. 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 Like
work the middle, 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 work the middle.
The Panthers are now on the clock.
Pan a camera to the middle of the dance floor. I think there's something going down. Shorty packing goods like a transport. And I ain't never seen something so round. How round? Round like a planet in orbit. Round like a b-ball. 23 Jordan. Dunking on default. Automatic forces attract me to females. I look this gorgeous. How did you even come in existence? Hey, or did you just appear out in an instance? You got me all different, revving my pistons. I wonder if she like the
Falcons are now on the clock.
I wish that shorty keep it lit. Cause if I shoot my shot, I won't miss. No backboard, gotta sound a light switch.
go ahead, touch down like that. 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 Hey, hey, go ahead, touch down like that. 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 Like
work the middle, 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 work the.
Someone put me out 'cause I'm on fire.
The Rams are now on the clock.
They've been searching for that thing to get them higher.
The Giants are now on the clock.
Damn Kane, you done kill Abel. Unbalanced land trying to keep the people stable. The way I feel, I might it all up. The way you feel, you might do it for the bug. All black, born to be a rebel. After this, I might go and water down the devil. Listen to everything around me, I can't see. Picked a dozen roses and left them in Galilee rolling thunder. Don't hear my cry, don't let alibis pass you. I finally starting to realize, never give up and coincide. I can't watch TV, it's all a lot. Tired of trying, go ahead and fly. Everybody want a straight answer, but media keep us blind. A good heart is not hard to find. Why
The Dolphins are now on the clock.
We're talking about your brother protecting the sons and daughters from political manslaughter.
Someone put me out 'cause I'm on fire. I can't give a about what they say.
The Buccaneers are now on the clock.
You can't catch my drift, can't catch my way.
The Colts are now on the clock. The Browns are now on the clock. The Jets are now on the clock. The Raiders are now on the clock.
Agitated illusion, only built for confusion. The institution, modern day execution. Think I know the solution. Maybe not should I do it. Just put it in the music. Just put it in the music.
Someone put me out 'cause I'm on fire.
The Panthers are now on the clock.
About what they say. They've been searching for that thing to get them higher. You can't catch my drift, can't catch my way. You'll burn out if you
The Cardinals are now on the clock.
Can you feel it rushing through your veins? Though you make it all that you desire. Don't see it when that never be the same. You burn out if you jump into the fire. Can you feel it
The Patriots are now on the clock.
through your veins? Though you make it all that you desire. Don't see it when that never be the same. You burn out if you jump into the fire. Can you feel it rushing through your veins? Though you make it all that you desire. No city
The Saints are now on the clock. The Panthers are now on the clock. The Patriots are now on the clock.
I heard a flare gun, I'm ready to race. No, I don't fear none, I'm stuck in my ways. They say I'm the chosen one, to see it in my face. Get this one and I'm holding on, I can't be replaced. I just take a sip, but it's spit. We on track for the win, celebrate the win again, celebrate
The
the win.
49ers are now on the clock.
We on track for the win, celebrate the win again, celebrate the win again. Yeah, the sun can't touch me, got a brand new visor, yeah. Your friends
The Chiefs are now on the clock.
Get the job done like the equalizer. And I'ma grab another drink, 'cause tonight I'ma die like Michael Phelps.
The Colts are now on the clock.
Diving in this pool.
The Lions are now on the clock.
I'm just telling you the truth. I heard a flare gun, I'm ready to race. No, I don't fear none. I'm
The
stuck in my
Eagles
ways.
are now on the
They say
clock.
I'm the chosen one, to see it in my face. Get this one and I'm holding on, I can't be replaced. I just take a sip, but it's spit. We on track for the win, celebrate the win again, celebrate the win again. Take a sip, but it's spit. We on track for
The
the win,
Broncos are now
celebrate
on the
win
clock.
again, celebrate the win again. Get it triumphant. Let's bump it. Don't mind me seizing the moment. Energy up, my body burning. My stomach keep up turning. Stop moving, I can't control it. On my last breath and I can't hold it. You gotta give it all I got. This for the ones that think I'm joking.
The Patriots are now on the clock.
Lightweight bust off half a. Yeah, I'm sweating, babe. Must be all them happy meals. I don't know how happy feels, but damn, I'm tryna find you. Say I got sex appeal. I think it's 'cause I work that gun. I'm ready to race. No, I don't fear none. I'm stuck in my ways. They say I'm the chosen one, to see it in my face. Get this one.
The Patriots are now on the clock.
That's a lot of it. 4 coops, 4 seasons, drop the top of it. Bust down, but my wrist, time to talk a lot of. I got both my girls head to toe designer.
The Jets are now on the clock.
Let me feel myself a little bit. Little bit. You ain't talking big. Get out my way, little bit. I can't hear the hate, got a lot of it. Take these bands to the bank, let them rot in it. So much ice on me,
the Texans are now on the clock.
I got homies that can sleep without two. I got homies that can sleep without Gucci and Chanel, I got a lot of it. Walk up in the
Vikings are now on the clock.
Gon' pop it for me cause I'm rich and poppin' in. Yeah. Drip. Little bit. Let me feel myself a little bit. Little bit. You ain't talking big. Get out my way, little bit. She gon' put it on me, that's a lot of it. 4 coops, 4 seasons, drop the top of it. Bust down, but my wrist, time to talk a lot of.
The Chargers are now on the clock.
Drip. Little bit. Let me feel myself a little bit.
The Panthers are now on the clock.
Get out my way, little bit. West LA, that where you find me though. Cha-cha matcha with it, rockin' black clothes. Whip around that Batmobile, ducking 5-0. If you step to me, then be prepared for smoke, little bro.
The Falcons are now on the clock.
Let me feel myself a little bit. Let me blow this down a little bit. Drip, little bit. Let me feel myself a little bit. Little bit. You ain't talking big. Get out my way, little bit.
The Rams are now on the clock. The Giants are now on the clock. The Dolphins are now on the clock. The Colts are now on the clock. The Chargers are now on the clock. The Raiders are now on the clock. The Seahawks are now on the clock. The Cardinals are now on the clock. The Saints are now on the clock. The Saints are now on the clock. The The Dolphins are now on the clock.
Never a cap, out of the drought, watching me ball. Soon as I snap, hit of the pack, walk for the sack, shaking them out, breaking them off, talking my talk, walking my wall like I do. Sit on the throne, get in the zone, turn it on, must be the shoes, must be the team, must be the camp, must be the crew. You need a win, who need a win, that's all we do. I've been a king and I've been about mine. Never could
The
doubt
49ers
mine.
are now on the clock. The Chiefs are now on the clock.
Time I was down and out, had to bring grinding back. Doing the drills and working the wheel where you're grinding at. You know what it be, playing this here for the keeps. Had to make out with a feast, a family to feed. Third cold where the trophy should be. EA got me in the game now. Read on with the gang now. They're here with a lane now. My home second with a ring now. Legendary on the field, kind of drip is a skill. This the highest cruiser bill, ain't nothing just to heal.
The Bills are now on the clock. The Lions are now on the clock. The Eagles are now on the clock.
I buy like 23. Won't fall again and I put that on me. Yeah, I feel the way my heart all on my sleeve.
The Broncos are now on the clock.
Come for the win, can't take another L. Designer on me, this that new Chanel. Did that splash, did that drill.
The Patriots are now on the clock.
This the winning team, 6 rings with a pinky ring. Everybody used to pick at me, now I'm the one that they picking. Snakes out, they hit scene, but I can't hear it when the crowd screams. Still balling like an offspring. This for all the ones that doubted me. Gotta lose once to be a true winner. Only want the hunters with the blues in it. Eating blood across it where the blood thinner. Juice stay turned like, you know. I've been through that water like Olympic swimmers. Only bread and butter, what we ate for dinner. So I had to dream it till the dream is bigger. Only want the gold, we don't need the silver. Gotta be number 1, number 2 never count. Used to have bubble guts.
The Ravens are now on the clock.
Making my babies proud, wanna call my mama a house. Coming straight out the south, gotta know juice to end the drought. Yeah. I buy like 23. Won't fall again and I put that on me. Yeah. I feel the way my heart all on my sleeve. Yeah. That's why I had to put my wrist on freeze.
The Cowboys are now on the clock.
Designer on me, this that new Chanel. Did that splash, did that drill. Yeah, champion, yeah, we here.
Reaching my goals, I do not feel ashamed. I'm a dog, I'm a beast, and I cannot be tamed. I don't do it for fame, it's the love for the game. I go in like I'm
The Texans are now on the clock.
They amazed. I ain't break from the sticks and stones they threw. Anything that you can do, I can do it better than you. No matter what I do.
The Vikings are now on the clock.
I spent the check on the diamond cross, but still ain't paid my dues. Gotta be number 1, number 2 never count. Used to have bubble guts competition, now point them out. Making my babies proud, wanna call my mama a house.
The Chargers are now on the clock.
Gotta know juice to end the drought. Yeah.
I buy like 23. Won't fall again and I put that on me. Yeah, I feel the way my heart all on my sleeve. Yeah, that's why I had to put my wrist on freeze. Coming for the win, can't take another L. Designer on me, this that new Chanel.
The Panthers are now on the clock.
Did that drill.
The Falcons are now on the clock.
Yeah, we here.
The Rams are now on the clock. The Giants are now on the clock.
Yeah, I use a dub, I'ma win, I won't lose with this. Yeah, I'ma act a fool with this. Yeah, I'ma act a fool with this.
The Dolphins are now on the clock.
Act a fool with this. I turn the knob, can't resist, I'm incredible. Yeah, came for the dollars, call it vegetable. Then I did the dash, can I catch me, bro? Ooh, then I did the dash, can I catch me, whoa? Your whole team is no competition.
The Colts are now on the clock.
It's a solo mission.
The Browns are now on the clock.
Turn the whole field to a schoolyard. Bunch of students ain't eating around here. I'm the
The Steelers are now on the clock.
Put the gas on them like I'm with the Cavalier. Show no love, got the confidence, no fear. I use a dub, I'ma win, I won't lose.
The Raiders are now on the clock.
Yeah, I'ma act a fool with this. Yeah, I'ma act a fool with this. Yeah, I'ma act a fool with this. Okay. Yeah. Then I hit that.
The Seahawks are now on the clock. The Cardinals are now on the clock.
Stars born, I've been ready for this. Since like 9-5, I've been eager for this. Talent on the rise.
The Bears are now on the clock.
Trophy is the prize, ain't no gimmicks with this. Okay, now what's left on them? Told you I'ma flex on them. I did it all subtle, ooh, and then I hit that exit on them. Gotta blame my faith, cause these odds ain't got nothing on them. I secured the safe for
The Saints are now on the clock.
Only winning is exception.
The Dolphins are now on the clock.
Ain't no dub, ain't no L on my crew. Ooh. Only winning is exception on my crew. Yeah. Ain't no dub, ain't no L. I use a dub, I'ma win, I won't
The
lose.
49ers are now on the clock.
Yeah, I'ma act a fool with this. Yeah, I'ma act a fool with this. Yeah, I'ma act a fool with this. Okay.
The Bills are now on the clock. The Lions are now on the clock. The Eagles are now on the clock. The Patriots are now on the clock. The Bears are now on the clock.
She-Rag got me.
The Ravens are now on the clock.
Dead boy on the beat, so you gotta go berserk.
Okay. Sometimes you need a friend, not the ones that just show up and don't put nothing in. You know the ones that lend their hand and want to see you win. When you come up on that lick, make sure you cut them in. And then, sometimes you need a foe, one to keep your eyes open, keep you on your toes. You know the ones that want to keep you
The Jets are now on the clock.
But I can't go, no I can't go. And whoa, sometimes I need a check. Not the sneakers, but the ones that make you watch your step.
The Texans are now on the clock.
Give them more than what I get, expecting up the back. In fact, you know, I sat down with my accountant, he said I got good news and I got bad news.
The Vikings are now on the clock.
You made a lot. I said, what's the bad news? The bad news is you spent more. Okay. Look, sometimes you need the faith, sometimes you need to know your worth, sometimes you need to wait. Shoot like the golden boy, but in front of bait. You can't negotiate.
The Chargers are now on the clock.
But wait, jugging on the main stage, the mainframe, loosen up your face, baby. Sometimes I need a vacate, meditate, hydrate, protect my energy before engagement.
Grew up having nothing, you're labeled impatient. But once the boss made it, you're labeled amazing. Meticulous with words, such a force of nature. Boss. I don't wanna seem absurd, but that boy's a gangster. Focusing on me, way from Tel Aviv. Barbados with the hustle pockets LIDs.
The Panthers are now on the clock. The Falcons are now on the clock.
Residences, 3 different ones a week. Cause I deserve that. It's time to learn that. Mess around and put that thing up where your permit. 6 figures every year, yeah, I earn that. At the front of this line is where my turn at.
Sometimes you need a friend.
The Rams are now on the clock.
Don't put nothing in. You know the ones that lend their hand and want to see you win. When you come up on that lick, make sure you cut them in. And then
The Giants are now on the clock.
oh. Men gon' lie, women gon' lie. You're looking for the truth and the numbers don't hide. Looking for the root of all evil, then you need to go open up the briefcase, see with your eyes. Everybody claim to be great at small times, but they never spend a day in the rain in the front line. No lie. Stop playing on my phone line. Pull up in the space coupe with the roof optional. Wonder why they follow suit. I've been groomed from the womb. Came out of my mama with some running.
The Dolphins are now on the clock.
What you gonna do? Stop playing with.
The Colts are now on the clock. The Browns are now on the clock. The Jets are now on the clock.
They say fall and you let go. But I know I got an antidote to retain some kind of self-control. Look inside my head through a telescope. You erase all the calls from a telephone. No sense of smile, maybe tell a joke. Holding back your tears, singing minimal syllables. Yeah. Look at me, at the asylum. Was a fate or mistake, cause the time ain't up. Yet the parts of my mind don't get much love. If you want in my head, come and call me up. You look like a twisted Robin Hood. Do you take from the rich and the poor and us? Wearing diamond shoes where you walk your pugs in a town you create where there ain't no love.
The Raiders are now on the clock.
They don't know my name. I get through the pain. Taste sweet on my face like it's lemonade. Tie me up in chains. I get through the pain. Taste sweet on my face like it's lemonade.
Stop taking, but still got a reflux. I drip out from the socket to a teacup. Drink up inside. Look when it peep.
The Seahawks are now on the clock.
Outside, there's a war going on your front lawn. Black Hawks see the red dawn horizon. Blind yet I'm rising, abiding by laws of attraction. My thoughts still rising. Thinking.
The Cardinals are now on the clock.
Life gives you limits, and my only thought is drinking. Thirsty, will I be alive or dead before 30? That's all that concerns me early. Lemonade quenching my inner rage.
The Titans are now on the clock.
Minute Maid, let it set my soul ablaze. On each and every way, put me in the water for the save.
They don't know my name. I get through the pain. Taste sweet on my face like it's lemonade. Tie me up in chains. I get through the pain. Taste sweet on my face like it's lemonade.
The Saints are now on the clock.
They don't know my name. I get through the pain. Taste sweet on my face.
The Patriots are now on the clock.
Tie me up in chains. I get through the pain. Taste sweet on my face like it's lemonade.
The Steelers are now on the clock. The 49ers are now on the clock. The Bills are now on the clock. The Lions are now on the clock.
I don't know no better, I'm on this every day. You cannot run with me, boy, I'm a heavyweight. Baby, I know what's coming, I could barely wait. And when it was on, they wanted me gone, boy, I'm here to stay. Stop calling me little bro, I got mileage on me.
The Eagles are now on the clock.
More action and no talk, I went quiet on him.
The Jaguars are now on the clock.
Team, we riding on.
Hey, I don't be with me so
The
basic.
Broncos are now on the clock.
All of them fake, I see both faces. Scared of the whip, it's a ghost racing. I knock them down to their cold cases. Marathon
The
running
Bills
slow
are now
paces.
on the
They did
clock.
not want me to go places. Foil plans
The
like
Ravens
place.
are now on the clock.
With the whole squad, are you ready? Done told y'all that you better be running. I'm in my go yard when I walk in, I know y'all telling me nothing. I'm the man. Suck it if y'all in denial. I get the chip on him and I bust out the south side as that big of the guy.
Boy, you
stop it, quiet. If it's new, I done got it. See my jewels, shining, shining. White diamonds, Miley Cyrus. Private jet, private pilot. Look at me, stylish, stylish. Masterpiece, body, body. Young, hey, I don't know.
The Cowboys are now on the clock.
You cannot run with me, boy, I'm a heavyweight. Baby, I know what's coming, I could barely wait. And when it was on,
The Texans are now on the clock. The Vikings are now on the clock. The Chargers are now on the clock.
That's when I'm honest. Penthouse building, reach heaven's heights. Now that's what you call a God complex. Remember the days I was down low when it was out cold, but I went out and got it. Look at my milestones, man, it feel like the Dow Jones when you look at my pocket. Look at the flex, whipping the Teslas. I'm a mess, but it's all a finesse. Boy, yo, stop it, quiet. If it's new,
The Panthers are now on the clock. The Falcons are now on the clock.
Private pilot, look at me, stylish, stylish. Masterpiece, body, body.
The Rams are now on the clock. The Giants are now on the clock. The Dolphins are now on the clock. The Colts are now on the clock. The Browns are now on the clock. The Jets are now on the clock. The Raiders are now on the clock. The Seahawks are now on the clock. The Cardinals are now on the clock. The Saints are now on the clock. The Saints are now on the clock. The Patriots are now on the clock. The Steelers are now on the clock.
Tell me who you talking to. Roll up that Sinatra, fly la mama to the moon. She asked me what's my life path. Told her 55 south to the cash.
The 49ers are now on the clock.
Shout out South Street and shout classic.
The Bills are now on the clock. The Lions are now on the clock. The Eagles are now on the clock. The Jaguars are now on the clock. The Broncos are now on the clock. The Bears are now on the clock. The Ravens are now on the clock.